What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, your obvious one-stop source for basically anything Shenmue at this point, be it Shenmue 1 and 2 HD or the upcoming Shenmue 3. So, here's some interesting news that we've actually seen today in the latest Kickstarter backer update. Now, I'm going to get into it in a minute why it's so popular and why it's very, very important, or more so to the point, why I think this part and this particular thing I'm going to talk about is very, very interesting. But real quick, I do just want to remind everyone that yes, unfortunately, as we do know, Shenmue 3 is delayed on PS4 and PC until 2019. Hopefully that's going to give us a better experience in the long run. And in the meantime, we're going to have Shenmue 1 and 2 HD on modern platforms like Xbox One, PS4 and PC, hopefully this year in 2018. So among other things included in the Kickstarter backer update today, I'm going to skip over the majority of them because there's one very interesting thing I want to talk about, and that is the preliminary system requirements for the PC version of Shenmue 3. Now, of course, it is noted in here, and this goes in basically as a standard and saying for any game that's currently in development, these are obviously subject to change. They could become higher, they could become lower, or they could give different results based on whatever. So here we go. I'm going to talk about these and why I think they're very interesting. So the system requirements for the PC version. The minimum operating system is either Windows 7, Windows 8, or Windows 10. They're obviously all have to be 64-bit based operating systems. That's a given nowadays because, well, really you shouldn't be using a 32-bit operating system at all in current year, let alone probably any time in the last almost 10 years. But that's not really a concern for pretty much anyone. So on the CPU front, we're looking at an Intel Core i5 4460, 3.4 GHz or better. Essentially, it has to be a quad-core processor or better. It gives no AMD equivalent, probably because they're generally trash. Half kidding, but half not. Basically, anything before Ryzen is a joke. But just to put it into perspective for you, the i5 4460 is about a 4-year-old chip, which completely demolishes the PS4, the PS4 Pro, and even the Xbox One X. In fact, they're so far ahead of any of the consoles that they shouldn't even be mentioned in the same sentence. But even having said all that, a 4460 is still a mid-range chip from the last 4 years, so I'd say the majority of people already exceed this. Moving on to memory, we're looking at 4GB minimum. I'm very, very shocked that it's a 4GB minimum for this. Most games nowadays use about 8 gigs minimum, but 4 is kind of acceptable when you have to factor in modern consoles like the PS4. And of course, obviously having 8, 16, 32 or 64 gig is going to help you even more. So from a GPU perspective, the minimum we're looking at here is an NVIDIA GeForce 650 Ti or better. It has to be a DirectX 11 card with at least 2GB of video RAM. Again, this is kind of similar with what we're expecting from base consoles. When you look at what's in the base Xbox One and the base PS4, it's estimated to be in around somewhere along the lines of a 650 Ti or a 660. Maybe even a 670 or a 760, based on whatever the optimization is and whatever ways they manage to squeeze around it. Again, not very important, although I am kind of shocked to see something as low as a 2GB card supported. Now here is the bit that I actually want to talk about and the reason why I'm making this video. You are going to need 100GB of storage space required for Shenmue 3 on PC. Now that is a very large amount of space, and I'm going to give you a couple of comparisons now in a second, just to prove my point. Of course, there also are one or two potential reasons why this is so big that are not as positive as I'd like to believe, but again, we'll cover those now in a second. So first off, as I mentioned, 100GB is a very, very large game. I have many high-end PC games, so many modern ones, all installed that very, very, very few of them even touch 100GB. In fact, I believe I only have about 4 games across all platforms, both PC or otherwise, that touch 100GB. Quickly off the top of my head, the only two I can actually think of are Halo 5 Guardians with all the Xbox One X content, and Gears of War 4. I think the Master Chief Collection is just under 100GB. For some reason I want to say that's about 96, but those are 3 of the largest modern games. And again, I'm going to give you another comparison. None of those games that I listed that with their exorbitant file sizes are very large explorative games, like Shenmue 3 has the potential to be. But let's use some similar games as a comparison for what Shenmue 3 could potentially be. Let's look at a massive game, including all of its DLC, which is, again, massive and has so many new areas to explore, new regions, etc. But let's look at The Witcher 3. The Game of the Year version of that game is 49GB, and that is considered a very, very large game. Skyrim is half that size. The The special edition with all the DLC, half of the size of The Witcher 3. Fallout 4, with all the DLCs and expansions, is roughly 40 gigabytes. So as you can see, Shenmue 3 has the potential to be absolutely massive. Now, I will say this on the other side as well. Let's look at a couple of reasons why this game could have such a large file size. One, as we covered, there could be so much expansive areas with so many different assets and art content and whatnot in there, as well as audio, etc. There could be so much in there, just making the huge amount of content in the game and the huge breadth of the game into such a large file size, which is obviously a positive. Another potential positive here is people with higher end computers might have access to much higher quality assets. You might be looking at uncompressed 4K textures for potentially everything, should you have the computer and the monitor to push such a thing. Again, a great option for people who have the hardware for this. But a potential negative of this whole situation when it comes to the size is I could be looking too much into this. One of the biggest things in storage space requirements in modern games, just like it is with modern movies, is audio. And in a big explorative RPG like something along the lines of Shenmue and whatnot, if you were to have the entire game voiced in multiple different languages, that would massively bloat up the storage space requirements. Now, of course, that's better for people who speak other languages, but it's not more of a direct benefit for your average person, and it could explain the exorbitant file size. I personally am keeping optimistic in this, in the belief that we're going to have this massive, explorative, wide open, detailed game with extremely high quality details, assets, and textures. But anyway, in the meantime, we'll have to wait and see. These things change, and the game is hopefully due out next year at some point. So let me know in the comments section below, what do you think all this stems for with the 100 gigabytes of storage space? Do you think it's going to be all the different audio languages? Do you think it's going to be the massive amount of content in the game and the explorative nature and areas? Or do you think it's just going to be extremely high quality assets? Or a combination of all of the above? And what do you think of the base preliminary specs, not just the storage space as well? The CPU, the memory, the GPU, etc. So let me know all of that good stuff in the comments section below. Hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did on the video. If for some reason you're not already subscribed to the best source of Shenmue stuff on the internet, feel free to hit the subscribe button and then turn on the notification bell. Granted, it's 2018, so getting all the notifications for videos and live streams and whatnot from YouTube is kind of questionable and up in the air, but hey, at least you can say you tried, right? As always guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.